Welcome to another edition of SHOT TV. Today I'm your host, Michael Finley. I'm with the National Shooting Sports Foundation's Government Relations team. Today I have a special guest for you. We've got Governor Pete Ricketts of Nebraska, who's kind enough to join us. Welcome, Governor.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for having me on.
Well, of course. Thanks for being here. You know, folks don't remember this, so I have to bring this up. The first time we met was we were in Nebraska, and we're actually on a gun range, and you shot a steel buffalo with a 50 caliber round weapon from a mile away. Now, can you tell me a little bit about your love for the firearms industry and shooting in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first of all, it's a great sport. I love all aspects of shooting, whether it's just target shooting or hunting. Certainly in Nebraska, where we have just wonderful natural resources. Every year I proclaim Nebraska the best turkey hunting state in the country, and not one of my fellow governors has ever said I'm wrong. So I've been doing that for years, so I must be right. But that's just one example of the great opportunities we have. And it's something I've been able to share with my son. So he and I go spring turkey hunting every year, and it's a great way to build those family relationships. So you've got that aspect of it. I've taken my daughter target shooting. Nobody's gonna be surprised to know she's actually better at it than me. Well, her eyes are younger, it's not fair. You know, she's only 20 years old. But the point is, it's a great way to be able to have something to do that's not like a video game, you know, where kids aren't staring down at their phones or whatever. And so that's one of the things that I love about it. And then of course, just as an elected official, it's really, really important to our republic. And this is, you know, not so much the fun stuff of it, but it's the really important stuff, which is, you know, our founders knew, and remember, when our founders created this country, it was really a radical idea that we could govern ourselves. And our founders said that our rights come to us from God, not from a government, and that they're our rights, we own them, and that we have got to protect them. And that's why they created the Second Amendment, to make sure that people would understand that we've got to protect our rights. And so all of this just really comes together. And you know, I've talked to people from Europe, and they're like, they really don't understand, well, why do you guys, you know, allow people to have guns? And I'm like, this is part of who we are as Americans. You know, this is, you know, again, growing up in Nebraska, we're very patriotic. This is part of how we protect our rights. And then of course you've got the added benefits of the, you know, hunting and spending time together and the shooting and stuff like that can really make it a fun pastime as well, a fun activity that you can share with the whole family.
That's such a great answer. And you mentioned Nebraska and it being a very friendly state for our industry, our manufacturers, our retailers, and our ranges. And we don't see that around the country. So what is your message when you're here to our manufacturers? What are you attracting folks to come into Nebraska? Are you retaining them? Or what is your message to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we would love, if you are a gun manufacturer or related anyway, please come to Nebraska. I see manufacturers picking up and leaving some of the states like California and moving to other states that are going to be more friendly, like our neighbor next door in Wyoming, which Mark Gordon's a great governor, so yeah, great. But coming to Nebraska, we're way better. But I think it also gets back to, again, in Nebraska, you know, people have that heritage of being hunters. And so whether it's, you know, you're looking for turkey, pheasant, ducks, you know, that sort of thing, or if you want to get into big game, we've got bighorn sheep. We've got some limited mountain lion hunting, we've got elk, we've got deer, we got lots of white-tailed deer, and mule deer as well. So there's lots of great activities there. But I think what you're also going to find is that Nebraskans understand the importance of our Second Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. And so we work actively to protect those. You know, just in my last legislative session last year, we passed a number of bills to make it easier for folks who have concealed carry. We made it easier so that, you know, we the state are notifying them before their concealed carry permit expires. We give them a 30-day grace period. We've made some of the transportation issues easier, you know, with regard to, you know, within state and so forth. We're looking to make it even easier with regard to state preemption of some of the local gun laws. And then just in general, where we would like to get to is constitutional carry, so that we can really make it clear that this is one of our rights. So you'll find that Nebraska is a very gun-friendly state. We appreciate and understand our Second Amendment rights, and that people use them to be able to enjoy the great natural resources we have.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned the last legislative session. Unfortunately, a couple of those bills that we just mentioned didn't pass, but we're in the legislative session again this year. Do you think something is going to come to your desk? And if so, will you
Well,
sign it?
the big push we're going to make this year is for constitutional carry. So we did get some of the other things where, we've tried to make it easier on our concealed carry permits. We've actually made an online process, so we save people time when they're renewing their, concealed carry. And then we've passed some bills, so that we're giving them notification, give them a grace period if it expires, that sort of thing. But the big push we're going to have this year is Senator Tom Brewer, who is a former Army colonel, is going to be bringing constitutional carry. And it's going to be a tough fight, frankly, because the way our legislature is structured, it only takes a small minority to block bills. But we're going to make a run at it and see if we can't get that so that Nebraskans can, really fully enjoy their constitutional right to carry firearms.
That's great, and we certainly hope that it will pass this year. I mean, it got so close last year. Not to get over the finish line was
Right.
a little disheartening, but we just love that you're pushing for it, that you're, a lot of people talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So we appreciate that about you, Governor, and we appreciate that, you continue to fight for our industry and, quite frankly, the Second Amendment within Nebraska. It's wonderful. So I want to talk a little
Just
bit
on that too. So when we were doing the hearings for this last year, legislative hearings can be kind of boring and, not many people show up sometimes. But when some of these bills, because we did try to get constitutional carry passed last year, when that was hearing was out there, we had tremendous support. So many people showed up at that hearing. They had to actually cut off the times. A lot of people unfortunately didn't get a chance to actually testify. But what that demonstrates is again, how passionate Nebraskans are about their Second Amendment rights. And again, if you're a manufacturer in a state where you're not being supported, our message is come to Nebraska. You've got not only a governor who supports you and supports growing the industry here in our state, but you've also got a citizenry that understands how important the Second Amendment is and wants to support you as well. We got Hornaday Manufacturing. They just announced last year expanding their facility by 50,000 square feet. They're adding another 50 more jobs. I think they've got almost 900 people between their facilities. So that's a great example, and we would love to have more manufacturers like that. I think last year we were I guess this would be now 2020, we had the 4th most economic development projects per capita of any state in the country. So we want to continue to attract business to our state, and we'd love to have more firearms manufacturers.
That's great, and you're absolutely right. Whether it's the Pacific Northwest, California, or the Northeast, our industry feels oftentimes that we're not welcome, or the jobs and our benefits to the economy aren't necessarily appreciated. So that is so refreshing and nice to hear from you that in Nebraska that our folks and our jobs and our contributions to the economy would be welcome. And you mentioned Hornady, and they're wonderful. Are there any other manufacturers that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, Hornady's the big one that we have in Nebraska, and of
Yeah.
course they've got great products. I use myself. Actually, I just shot a deer with using one of their rounds this past fall. So that's the big one, but we would love to have more. So Hornady does a great job for us in central Nebraska. We'd love to be able to help other people be able to expand.
So you mentioned hunting a little bit earlier, and you mentioned hunting with your daughter, and specifically turkey hunting. But I've seen you do a bit of target practice before with I think we did a 9mm. I'm not quite sure the brand, but as I recall, you and your state trooper had a little bit of a
Little competition.
competition. Now,
He was a little better than me.
now I was going to give you a little credit. As I recall the story, and I was there, but it might have been a couple of years ago. I think you wiped the floor with pretty much everybody there. So I know when we come out to Nebraska, we do a lot of target shooting. In your spare time, you've mentioned that. Will you talk a little bit about your passion for shooting in general, not just hunting, but just getting out there?
I just love shooting. I think it's a fun sport to be able to participate in. It's one of the ways I've engaged my kids in doing things that don't involve staring down at the phone, and I just think it's fun. So you're talking about hitting that buffalo from a mile away. That's just fun. It's just fun to be able to do something like that. It's actually one of the questions, because I can't remember if you were there when we were talking about this. It takes about 3 seconds for the round to get to the target. And you ask people, well, how far does that round drop in those 3 seconds? And people start scratching their head, but it's a physics question, right? So there's an intellectual aspect. It drops about 84 feet, because that's how far that gravity is going to pull that round down in the time it's flying. So again, you engaging people. You know, it's a fun sport. It's an intellectual sport. When you start doing, especially when you're doing those long range stuff and really get into the science behind it. And so I just enjoy it. I just think it's a ton of fun. And I do an annual birthday fundraiser that includes going to the shooting range to be able to, you know, just have fun and engage people in Nebraskans and getting out of the target range.
That's wonderful, and we don't have too much more time right now, Governor, but I had to say this one more time, not to pick on your detail again, but I believe you were 1 for 1 on that buffalo a mile away, and I believe your state trooper was 0 for 3.
Yeah, Chick went 0 for 3 that day. Oops, sorry, I suppose it wasn't supposed to be his name.
I didn't know if we were going to do the name. That's great. But before we wrap up, and you mentioned your message to everybody here is Nebraska's open for business. We want to retain our manufacturers, make life easy for you, and you want to recruit new ones. As you go around here, is there any last thing that you want to, if you were making a sales pitch to them, other than just Nebraska is a great place for them? In the future, you've got some things in mind. We were working on anti-discrimination bills for the firearm industry. We're working on making sure that there aren't frivolous lawsuits against our industry. Anything like that you want to go ahead and make for your final appeal to our folks before we head out?
Sure. Well, I would say, you know, the biggest thing, so Nebraska is an agricultural state, but manufacturing is our second biggest industry. And if I had a message to, you know, firearms manufacturers or anybody associated with the gun industry who is looking at a state, the thing that's going to set Nebraska apart is our people. Nebraskans are hardworking. You know, I was in the private sector. I can tell from personal experience that when you hire a Nebraskan, you get somebody who's well-educated, who's got a great work ethic, who's loyal, who's customer-oriented, and will help your company succeed. And that's the big thing why our manufacturers in the state love being in Nebraska and why we continue to see manufacturers invest like Hornady in expanding their operations. So that's probably the single biggest thing. If you're a gun manufacturer, you're a manufacturer. You want quality people who will help your operation be successful. You will find them in Nebraska.
Well, that's wonderful, great. And Governor, thank you for being our guest. Please enjoy the SHOT Show. And I know that you mentioned the certain governor has been here 8 times. We'd love for you to come 8 times, so please be our guest at any time.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much
I
for
look
doing
forward
this.
to it. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Absolutely,
appreciate it.
We'll see you next time on SHOT TV again. I'm your host, Michael Finley, with the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Take care.